You're listening to episode 772 of the Father Bills Podcast. Welcome back. This week's episode is entitled Living as a Holy Family, given on the Feast of the Holy Family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, 2020. Well, today we celebrate the Holy Family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. The three offer us a model for living. We might be tempted to think that they had it made, that they were perfect and therefore had no issues, no problems. After all, one was divine, the second was immaculate, and the third was an upstanding saint. Clearly, the scriptures do not give us this indication as to their having no problems at all. There are many problems that they run into. Just read the continuation of Luke. So by being a holy family, we are not then all of a sudden carefree or without troubles. Being a holy family is about the journey and how we journey through the challenges of our life with our faith. So what does this look like? Well, help has been given by St. Paul to the Colossians, where we heard, "Put on God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, heartfelt compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, bearing with one another and forgiving one another." It is no stretch to say that Jesus, Mary, and Joseph exemplified these virtues through their challenges, not despite their challenges. They put on holiness. And I want to go through each of these words that that were in that text there. They put on holiness by their recognition of God's sovereignty in their lives. God was deeply in their lives as a family. The presentation of Jesus in the temple was an example of this. They also attended weekly synagogue and made trips to Jerusalem for the Passover. They knew themselves to be beloved by God and responded in their religious practice that came from their hearts. If such was needed for Jesus and Mary and Joseph, who were, again, perfect, immaculate, and saintly, then all the more we sinners need to do the same by being faithful to Mass and the other commandments of God. Their heartfelt compassion is something that I'd like to subscribe to them. Again, one of those qualities that St. Paul mentioned in Colossians, and I'm going to hit heartfelt compassion, kindness, humility, and patience. Think of this, heartfelt compassion. Another word that could be translated from the Greek is mercy, or a deep down sense of emotion for another person, that in the gut kind of thing. In English, compassion is a way of expressing the sharing of suffering with others. Passion being suffering, compassion being suffering with. Have we then been examples of heartfelt compassion with our family members, with our siblings, parents, spouse, or children? When a family member passes away, this can be a special time for this quality to be present within a holy family. Its absence in those times shows evidence of the lack of holiness. Kindness in the Greek, let's move on to kindness, could also be translated as goodness or excellence and uprightness. This time of year, all of us are being challenged to express kindness to one another. This may be the most potent way we can express this form of universal love for those who do not believe. For everyone recognizes kindness This year, we have been in short supply of kindness. Do you think that we could use some more kindness in our culture and in our nation? Well, if so, then it doesn't start at the highest levels. It starts at home, the domestic church. It starts locally with us, with our families. Now, the next virtue is humility. In the Greek, this could be translated as lowliness of mind. It is not the disordered sense of being unvalued or unimportant, or, like I like to call it, feeling like you're pond scum. No. Rather, it comes from the deep knowledge of being the creation of God, that He has put us into our families for a reason. Humility recognizes our proper place in reference to God, of being the subject of His love, that He is almighty and we are the creation, that we are limited in our nature to know things. Humility also comes from the word humus, or ground. We often bow low or genuflect to the ground as a sign of humility. When we know that we don't know everything, when we ask questions more than give answers, then we may very well be on our track for humility. Humility also comes from being humiliated. You should have been at last night's Mass. It would have been quite entertaining at the very end. We couldn't get the announcements correct, and I couldn't determine if it was Christmas or Easter. Yeah, and everybody laughed then, too. All you have to do is, well, there you go, a little dose of humiliation. Gentleness is then paired with humility in that it is the result of being humble. The word patience comes in the Greek for the word that we might also translate long-suffering. Ooh, doesn't that sound fun? I don't think so. So a little bit more looking around and trying to understand that, I found that it is also considered a waiting for a sufficient amount of time before expressing anger. This avoids the premature use of force or retribution that arises out of improper anger. In my own experience, I have found that when I have patience, I also have perspective. And when I don't have perspective, I don't have patience. So I often don't pray for patience, but pray for perspective. Imagine God's perspective on things. I ponder and we're still here considering all that humanity has done ever since we were created, and the messes that we've made, the murders that we have done, the lies, etc., as a people through the millennia, and we're still here. That's a lot of patience. How long, so many people in the Bible have asked, how long until you solve this problem? Well, we know that Jesus, in the manger, was the answer to that wait. Another virtue that I want to offer is then that of prudence. It's not on the list, but prudence lets us and helps us to know when to do something and in what measure. So when I have perspective, I often have patience. And when I have patience, I am much more prudent. See how it kind of goes together? I think it's safe to say that we all need more patience then with our family members. But don't assume that the issue is with them every time. Maybe we're the one with whom others have struggles being patient with. It is no stretch then to say that Jesus, Mary, and Joseph exemplified all these virtues, but they didn't do it because life was nifty and dandy and simple. No, they had lots of challenges, death threats, a lost child, and others. The Feast of the Holy Family then lets us ask for the intercession from the Holy Family that we may imitate them, not as a family without difficulties, but as a family who lives through them with heartfelt compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience, bearing with one another, and forgiving one another. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Father Bill's podcast. If you have any comments or questions, as always, I encourage you to go to my website, fatherbill.org. That's FRBILL.org. And there you can email me or see what's going on my Facebook, Twitter, and sometimes even the Instagram, which I hardly ever do. But nonetheless, right from the website, though, you can email me, and I'll do my best to get right back to you. In the meantime, may God bless you, and Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.